Alright people, midweek report time. So, a lot of news coming out over the last couple of days. Let's have an old look-see and get chatting about some of this here. So, the story that's actually realistic, it's only broken the last 5 minutes, is about Canelo Alvarez. Now, there's been a lot of talk about who his next opponent is. So first it was potentially going to be Dave Benavidez. Then we were talking about the Bivol rematch, which isn't happening. Then it was maybe Badu Jack over in Saudi, Cruiserweight world title on the line, a legit Cruiserweight title, 5-time champ or 5-division champ. Big payday over there. And then we heard Charlo during the week. Well, according to ESPN here, Canelo Alvarez versus Jamal Charlo is now reportedly expected to happen next. This will be an undisputed title defense of Canelo's super middleweight world titles against Charlo, who I seen a stat here where since December 2020, Canelo Alvarez has fought a grand total of 7 times, which is quite impressive, especially for someone who's making the kind of money that he's making. It's very impressive. Jamal Charlo, has fought a grand total of once. How he's still champion is beyond me. I'm going to get to Sullivan here because I'm going to have a go at him later on in this video because of some ridiculous comments he made with regards to the Bivol situation. But seriously, now, him against Canelo was a fight. If this was an active Charlo who had a fought in the last 2 years, I'd be a bit more intrigued about it. The fact is, Charlo, he looked okay at 160, but never as good at 160 as he is at 154. And he's going up for the first time to super middleweight. He's getting an immediate crack at the title because obviously he's champion at 160 pounds, so he will get that. But he's been out of the ring for 2 years. I would have always picked Canelo over Charlo, but any kind of doubt I had on the side of Canelo was pretty much gone, given the fact that he's been out of the ring for 2 years. I mean, if he'd have been active, excuse me, if he'd have been active, I'd be saying Charlo's uppercut, he's fast, he's got a lot there that could offset Canelo, but out of the ring for 2 years, I mean, God knows what he's like. It's 2 years is 2 years. You're going to be rusty after a year, much less 2 years. So, Alvarez versus Charlo reportedly set to happen next, which will be around about September time, because Canelo normally tends to fight in May and September. Occasionally has the odd fight in between, but it's normally there the months. So, let's wait and see. Let's see when it gets announced. I would imagine, because Charlo is a PBC guy, that would be on Showtime or Fox. Canelo obviously is a free agent. He can just go to whatever network he wants. So if he wants to do the Charlo fight and then maybe come back to the zone next year and do the Bivol fight, or if he wants to go, maybe stay on PBC and do the Benavidez fight next May, who knows. Canelo Alvarez at the end of the day is in a luxury position where he doesn't need to worry about being signed to one specific promoter and having him do all the work. He can just go to the highest bidder because he is a bigger name than the promoters, which is a great situation to be in if you're Canelo Alvarez, because realistically it's a case of, right, checkbook out, who wants Canelo? And that's kind of how it is. In terms of another cash cow, Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte has had his say on the rematch negotiations for August 12th. He actually told Sky Sports this. It's a big fight. It's 8 weeks away. There's no communication, nothing at all. They're just wasting time, messing about. I don't think they're serious about this fight. So that's according to Dillian Whyte. Now, he gave that interview with Sky Sports. So obviously, Eddie Hearn, excuse me, bit of a cough. But Eddie Hearn's been mentioning the fact that obviously Dillian Whyte is Anthony Joshua's preferred next opponent, and they've been talking about offers, contracts, etc., etc. But Dillian Whyte there has gone on Sky and he's counteracted a lot of what they're saying. He's saying 8 weeks to go, no announcement. Now, 8 weeks, he's roundabout right. Would they need really 8 weeks for a Dillian Whyte fight? They probably would, to be fair. Not in terms of training, but they'd be already training for it now. But more so for the marketing point of view. I would be saying, yeah, get the marketing ASAP. So as though when this fight, isn't, happening, that they've done the maximum amount of marketing. They've had the press conference, they've had the face-offs, the, gloves are off maybe or something like that, etc. If they're not doing that 8 weeks out, it is a bit of a worry. Are they hoping that it's just going to be a quick, easy kind of, here it is, everyone's going to come and flock to it regardless? That I don't know. I think the fact that both guys are known in the UK, well enough known in the UK, they have a bit of beef there. You can bring up the fact that they had the fight there back a couple of years ago, 2015. People remember that, so, would it need as much promotion? That I don't know. But the way Dillian Whyte is speaking about it, you kind of wonder, is Anthony Joshua going to even fight come what August. I would imagine if they don't do Dylan White, they would just pluck somebody out. Wouldn't be anybody decent, but they would probably pluck someone out if the goal is, and he needs it, truth be told, he needs another fight. He really, truly does, to gel more with his new trainer. He needs, as far as I'm concerned, he needs all that. That's exactly what Anthony Joshua needs. And, you know, if it's not against Dylan White, you know, you're not going to want to take someone who's, you know, massively dangerous if you got a potential Wilder fight coming up, but someone kind of around that level or so. Let's see. In terms of the misfits end of it, because obviously, look, there's some news in that as well. KSI versus Tommy Fury is now reportedly very, very close to being a done deal. KSI has declared will be an 8-rounder. KSI has already started training. John Fury has confirmed the deal is over the line. He thinks there'll be an announcement very soon. Right, so just gonna chuck this out there. Is that going to be under Queensberry, British Boxing Board of Control, sanctioned fight? I'd imagine it's going to be in the UK. Or what way is it going to be? Because a lot of these misfit shows, as far as I'm aware, they're not under, well, I know they're not under the jurisdiction of the British Boxing Board of Control, therefore they're not officially professional fights. So you go on to BoxRec, Wings of Redemption versus Boogie 2988 is not going to be there, right? So, and I'm not saying it's on the same level as this, but would this be KSI? Because KSI actually fought pro under a pro license. Yeah, I know he fought Logan Paul, I think it was, in an amateur exhibition a couple of years ago. I think it was more an amateur contest, to be honest, but that as an amateur is not going to go on your official record. So would this be his actual pro debut against Tommy Fury? Obviously not his first time in the ring, but under official professional British Boxing Board of Control license fight against Tommy Fury. Fury, he seems to just know where he stands. Like, at the end of the day, Tommy Fury is no great shakes. He's never going to really do anything in terms of world level, winning world titles. But he is going to get the bag fighting the Jake Pauls and the KSIs of the world. He is legit going to get the bag doing this. He's already got the bag against Jake Paul. He's going to get the bag again against KSI. At least he'll be financially set for life from boxing, because he ain't going to do... If Tommy Fury won an English title, that would surprise me. See, that would surprise me, because I'd be like, damn. You know, I didn't... Considering the fact, right, that Ben Whittaker fought one of Tommy Fury's previous opponents in his last fight, and the gulf, the level was just... Like, Ben Whittaker, it was just like, what the hell? He could have had one hand tied behind his back, and he would have still won that fight easy. Tommy Fury beat him, but he had his few issues in there, and Ben Whittaker just not even out of first gear. So it shows where Tommy Fury's at, so that's why he's obviously targeting the likes of this. Now, I already spoke about this today. John Fury demanding that Alexander Usyk make an apology or else the fight won't happen. He's also said that Usyk's trying to turn the public against Tyson Fury. To quote Obi-Wan from Revenge of the Sith, "You have done that yourself." There you go with the Star Wars reference. Which they've done a good job at, because the public drift away. Look what wonders he's done for this country, and look how quickly they've turned to support a foreigner. Yeah, John Fury obviously can't see the point. So people have seen through the facade that Tyson Fury's been putting on, the lies, the gaslighting. And at the end of the day, right, the public don't like being taken for fools. When they can clearly see the forest through the trees, they can see what's been going on. That you've had Alexander Usyk, who's wanted to make this fight, who's tried to make this fight, who has agreed to some bad demands, truth be told, you know, taking less money to go over to fight him in the UK at Wembley Stadium, and for him to constantly have the goalpost moved one way another, and all this. Alexander Usyk hasn't done any... If by trying his best to make this fight, Alexander Usyk has turned the public against Tyson Fury, well, how is that a bad thing? Because Alexander Usyk has actually tried to make the fight that you're saying your son wants, but he's shown completely no interest in trying to make this fight, apart from making a few videos saying sign the contract, when, you know, there's no contract on the table now at this stage. It's just absolutely... John Fury, I don't know, yeah, that's John Fury. That is just John Fury in a nutshell. In terms of some good fights that have been announced, well, ordered, not announced. So the IBF at Cruiserweight have officially ordered Jay Apataya to defend his IBF Cruiserweight world title against Richard Riakporhe next. Parties have 30 days to agree a deal, and then it will go to a purse bid. Now, Jay Apataya is probably number one at Cruiserweight right now, and tremendous talent. Really, really like Jay Apatow. I think he's a great fighter. I thought against Myris Briedis he'd have a chance, because I did think Briedis was slowing down, and I thought maybe he knew that himself, given the fact that he was mentioning Jake Paul so much, that maybe he knew, I don't have much miles in the clock, and maybe I just want to get a big... He was never going to get that fight, but maybe he was obviously hoping, wishful thinking to get that. But I knew Briedis had enough in the tank, so I kind of thought against Jay Apatow it would either be the old guard still clinging on to something, or, the new guard. Obviously it was the new guard. He hasn't done much since then, but against Richard Riakporhe, that fight for me is just made for Jay Apatow to look good against. Now, Richard Riakporhe has improved a lot over the last couple of years. You go back to the days where he was managed by Dylan White and he was fighting on Eddie Hearn shows. I can kind of see probably why Eddie Hearn wasn't exactly clamouring to sign him, because he didn't look amazing. But since then, he's been looking a lot better. He's been looking strong. He's been accurate with the right hand. He's been looking good, has Richard Riakporhe. But I just don't think he's on the level of a Jay Apatow. I don't. And I wouldn't be surprised if they look to go down the Chris Billum Smith road. I really wouldn't. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sky try and do that as well, because it'd be an in-house fight. Jay Apatow, that's a really, really, really tough fight for... what's the name? Richard Riakporhe. The name just slipped my mind there. That's a real tough fight for Richard Riakporhe. I think he would struggle a lot in that fight. We also, this week, and it feels more real now. And I'm looking forward. I love this fight. Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. They had the face-off. So the first press conference, they had the face-off. And, it was also announced it's going to be 85 quid in the US on pay-per-view. I mean, it really does put in context, like, when we get up in arms about a 27 quid pay-per-view and we see that, like, it's a great fight, but we probably won't even get charged pay-per-view over here, depending on what network shows it. I seriously doubt it would. I doubt it. They wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do pay-per-view over here, especially at that time in the morning. But 85 quid, $85. Crazy. In terms of the fight, it's more real now that we've seen them both have their press conference. We know what's going to happen. And, I like the look of both guys. Both guys look confident. Both guys are experienced. Both guys appear to want it. They have the bit between their teeth. And for me, it just, the more build-up we're going to get for this fight, the better it's going to be. Because I can't wait for this fight. I really, truly can't. That week in boxing alone is just incredible. I mean, we have Stephen Fulton in New Way on the Tuesday. And then on the Saturday, we have this fight. Although it would be Sunday morning UK time, it's an all-nighter. It's a watch-along. There's no ifs or buts. That fight right there is a fight I have been waiting for years. And the fact now, it's already been announced. I was already happy about that. But the fact that we're seeing the press, we're seeing them together, and we know this fight's happening, I'm so happy. I'm buzzing for this fight. I really, truly am. Now, Dimitri Bivol, I want to quote him here. I'll see if I can find the quote here, because he's obviously not happy about the whole situation with the WBC, and rightfully so. He shouldn't be happy at all. It's completely ridiculous. Absolutely makes no sense. Farcical, nonsensical. It's just stupid from Sullivan. He says it's not fair. How can you say I am a champion of the world if somebody from some country can't fight for your belt? It's not fair. Don't mix politics and sport. They don't mix, and they don't. Now, Sullivan, the good scumbag that he is, responded, our position is not personal and we're very sorry if it hurts anyone. We're a sanctioned body that fights for peace against abuse of power. He's literally just abusing his power. It's unreal. And, as Bivol said, just keep it out. Like, for me, right, I love sport. For me in my life, it's probably the three main things in my life that are my passions would be sport, gym, and history, in that order. Right? I love sport because it's an escape from things. Any sport. I love F1, boxing, football. I watch a bit of rugby. I watch and play a bit of golf. Darts. I like darts. But boxing, F1, and football, probably in that order, are my favourite ones. And at one stage, you could watch that as an escape. And then they start chucking politics and stuff. And it's just like, people watch it as a escape from reality in a way, because they're watching to escape whatever's happening in the world. You can go and you can watch your favourite sport and you can just forget. You get caught up in chatting with your mate between it as well, and everything is good. When you start mixing all this politics and virtue signalling, as far as I'm concerned, has no place in it. Realistically, it doesn't. And right here, you have a president of a sanctioned body abusing his power. That's why he is abusing it, and he is now stopping, for a virtue signal, a potentially brilliant fight being for undisputed. It just makes no sense to me. It really doesn't, and I don't understand. And thankfully, I'm not alone. I see the majority of people are in agreement, and they don't accept it either. They think it's not a good thing, and it's not. Excuse me. For me, it's just Sullivan is just. I don't even want to go on. I don't even want to go there. But Bivol has done absolutely nothing wrong. All he wants to do is try and unify, become undisputed. And they don't even know what his stance is. But yet he's still not allowed to fight for it. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. In terms of Chris Eubank Sr., so Chris Eubank Sr. has really been... He gave an interview with TalkSport. Now, apparently... Well, I knew this wasn't the original version, but apparently the actual version that they streamed live to YouTube, they actually took down and replaced it with one. Not replaced it, but just they kind of cut out a few little bits, in pieces. So, in terms of some of the things he said, so with regards to Conor Benn's situation, this is an interesting one. He's adamant that Conor Ben is innocent, which is strange. So I'll quote him here. He says, Conor went to the Piers Morgan show. That was walking into the light. That shows a man, to be honest, when someone's guilty, there's no way they'd walk into the light of Piers Morgan. That proves he's innocent to me. Right. Now, he's gone on to say that he feels that, even though, because Conor Ben did fail 2 tests, we know that he feels that someone may be contaminating Conor Ben in the team without Conor Ben knowing. Do I think that could potentially happen? It's hard to say, really, because obviously I'm not in the team, but do I think that may happen? Maybe not to Conor Ben necessarily, but maybe to some people in boxing. I don't know, would be the honest answer. I'm sure in some instances, maybe it is. Maybe there are people with ulterior motives. I'm sure there are. The whole Conor Ben going on Piers Morgan, look, with the greatest respect to Chris Eubank Sr., Conor Ben has never struck me as the sharpest tool in the box. So maybe in Conor Ben's mind, he thinks that go on Piers Morgan will look good, when in actual fact it had the polar opposite effect. So maybe, I don't know if I agree with him there, but in terms of him saying, that he believes that it does happen in boxing, that certain times it's not even the fighter. The fighter are convinced they're clean, they've done nothing, but someone in the team has done it. I mean, that wouldn't actually shock me too much if there were people in the team who did do that, thinking, if he gets big money and he gets big money fights and we can kind of, help him, quote unquote, without him knowing, then it's going to benefit everybody. Maybe, never know. I wouldn't rule it out, but in this instance, I wouldn't be going that far. He also had his say on the Liam Smith rematch. So David Hay called me the other day. He said he doesn't spar. He has yes men around him. The Smith doesn't beat Eubank on my watch. I am no longer there, so I don't know anymore. So he's implying that if he was still in Team Eubank, if he was still looking after his son, that he wouldn't have lost to Liam Smith that night. I tend to disagree with that. I tend to think that he would have still lost, because at the end of the day, Chris Eubank Jr. makes fundamental mistakes in there that have never been rectified. It's not like he wasn't making these mistakes before Roy Jones came in, and Roy Jones has just not looked at them or maybe added these mistakes to his game. He's not done that. Eubank's always making mistakes. He's had his father in his team before when he's taken losses, albeit not as devastating as this, it has to be said, but nevertheless he's still lost. He's still making fundamental mistakes. That to me is someone who is... I've said it once about Eubank Jr. and I'll say it again. All right, he needs a trainer who can fix those mistakes, but who Eubank Jr. is going to listen to. Now the problem is with Roy Jones, he has a trainer who he is listening to and he does respect, because obviously he knows what Roy Jones did in the ring. However, Roy Jones to me is not the trainer. Sorry if you heard that tractor going up the road there. Roy Jones is not the trainer to bring the best out of Eubank. And it might be too late now to bring the best out of him, but he needs a trainer who's going to teach him the fine art of defense, who's going to teach him how to use his physical attributes, but also minimize getting hit. That's what he needs. But if he gets someone like that and he doesn't respect me, he ain't going to listen. He ain't going to listen. You know, it's like you could say to me, but gee, he was such a great boxer, surely he could be a great trainer. It doesn't work like that. It's not necessarily... I mean, anyone who watches football would know that. I mean, you ask a Chelsea fan, what did you think of Frank Warren as a... Frank Warren. What did you think of Frank Lampard as a player? Oh, best player ever. What do you think of him as a manager? Get him out of here. You know, it doesn't always work that way. It's the same with boxing. Lennox Lewis, one of my favourite heavyweights of all time, probably top 5 heavyweights of all time, one of my favourite fighters of all time. I love Lennox Lewis, but he was not a great trainer. You know, he knew the science of boxing to a T. He was brilliant. But Lennox Lewis, even to hear him as a pundit, you can tell that this is someone who couldn't teach someone to box, you know. So, great fight. When someone's teaching him to do it, he can do it, but he couldn't teach them. Doesn't mean if you're a great fighter, you're going to be a great trainer. You know, Freddie Roach, great trainer. He wasn't that good as a fighter. You know, Manny Stewart, I think he had a couple of amateur fights. So did Customato. Shane McGuigan, I don't even think had any amateur fights, did he? I don't think he did. I'm not sure about Shane McGuigan. I know Shane McGuigan never had any amateur or never had any pro fights. Dave Colwell is another example. Dave Colwell, I think the maximum he ever won as a professional was an area title. And I think Chris Eubank Sr. even actually berated him for that years ago now. I think actually at the time, correct me if I'm wrong, was Dave Colwell working with Conor Benn at the time? Because I remember distinctly, or maybe that was someone else. I can't remember now, but I'm pretty sure it was Dave Colwell at the time. But it was someone anyway. And another trainer, there you go. Didn't have a great career, but is a very, very good trainer. If you can teach the game, if you can teach the sport to someone, right, you might not have been able to do it yourself, but that doesn't mean you can't teach it. And vice versa. You could have been very good at it, but teaching it, you're like a duck out of water. So, long-winded one here, but I think that Eubank, he needs a trainer who can make him more of a complete fighter. At this stage, it might be too late, but I still think that maybe there might be a glimmer of hope there. But might be too late at this stage. Maybe injuries have mounted up. Maybe his athleticism has gone. He's in his mid-30s now, so he's no spring chicken, and could be just a case of too little, too late. He thinks his son should have done more. Maybe he could have. And you know, when I think about it, he probably should have done more, because he certainly had the athleticism. But I think that it was just his mindset was just not right. For starters, he's never as confident as he made himself out to be. I mean, that much is clear. You know, he always made himself out to be very confident. You know, the kind of guy who was going in to seek and destroy, no fear. But when you seen him in the ring, it was a different story. You know, you seen him freeze against George Groves and Billy Joe Saunders. He needed someone who could get inside that head of his, give him some confidence, right? He also needed someone who could teach him the fundamentals, and whom he also could have respected. Now, I think the respect thing is just his own fault. But someone like maybe an Adam Boot would have loved working with Eubank Jr. I know they did work together briefly, but he said he's untrainable. That would have worked out well, because Boot, great psychologist, sports psychology background, when he has athletic fighters, he does tend to make mistakes with them. I do think that, but at least he can bring something else out of them. So that's the whole situation with Chris Eubank Jr. What he does now, I don't know. Ben Shalom is talking about the Eubank Jr. Liam Smith fight happening. We're hearing other people say it's going to be Conor Benn. I really don't know. I'm going to watch the space and see what happens. But for now, I'll leave you with that. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. As always, if you could, please smash the like button. Hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.